Hello everybody, how is it going? Today we're trying something new. I got a guest today, Salubrious Snail will be joining me, and together we're going to be going through his favorite commander deck. And that's the entire concept, that's the entire idea. We're trying this for the first time today, so please let me know if you think it's good, if you think it's entertaining, and then we can hopefully do this in the future again with new guests, maybe reoccurring guests, maybe just kind of anybody who is willing to come on. We'll see. This is all very much a work in progress, and I'm looking forward to your feedback. Anyways, first, I got a guest. Snail, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, I am Salubrious Snail. I make videos about EDH, deck building, and philosophy, and other related things. And I'm also on a podcast with a couple EDH tubers.
I really like your channel because it goes into this like really kind of philosophical insight into Commander. And so when I reached out to you to join me for this little show here and asked you for your favorite deck list, I was expecting something complicated. That is not what I got.
Yeah, I think that is what people tend to expect. They tend to expect that I am playing something like my Shroom deck most of the time, because that's, a deck that has lots of intricacies and lots of, complex layered synergies and stuff. And that deck's fun, but it could never be my default deck. It's not a deck that I want to play all of the time. This one's a deck I want to play all the time.
So, what is it? Who is it piloted by? What's the commander? What's the premise?
Yes, it is my Rada Erdekeld deck. I think I made a video about it a little over a year ago. Rada Erdekeld is a 2-mana Gruul creature that has tap, add 1 green to your mana pool, and whenever she attacks, you add 2 red to your mana pool, which goes away at by the second main phase, but you can use it for instant speed stuff. And so the idea of the deck is you play her on turn 2, and then turn 3, you have a suite of 4-mana ramp spells like Explosive Vegetation, and all these ones that are 4-mana, find 2 lands, put them onto the field, and then the whole rest of the deck is higher cost stuff. And a lot of those higher cost stuff things have Cascade, so a lot of times you'll play a Cascade card after that. Sometimes the Cascade card will roll into your 4-mana ramp spells, because that's going to be the most likely outcomes. If you're cascading for a 5 or less cost card, most of those are going to be ramp spells. And so you just kind of keep piling on lands and snowballing out of control with ramp.
What I think is immediately fascinating about this deck is that you play literally nothing that costs less than 4 mana. Is that right, or am I missing anything here?
Yeah, no, just the commander, and nothing in the deck that costs less than 4 mana. I know there are some versions of this deck that could include like a really useful 3-mana card, like a Tireless Provisioner or something, but I've opted not to do that. Keep it simple. Nothing below 4 mana.
I think that's really, really nice. Particularly, I enjoy that with Cascade. I've played a bunch of Cascade decks myself as well, and it's always just such a tremendous pleasure when you just get to completely ignore any of the low-cost stuff and you just attach more and more ramp to every single spell that you play. I think that's Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I also get so much joy out of starting to Cascade and then flipping far more cards than my opponents are expecting. I find that weirdly satisfying.
Does that happen? I guess it must, right? Because like as much as
I start flipping and my opponents are like, wait, have you not hit? You're cascading with a 5-mana card. How many 4 or less cost cards do you have?
And I mean, it's terrifying as you flip past all of these enormous creatures. You're just kind of like showcasing, here, this is what you'll have to deal with later.
Yes. I've said before that the most powerful Magic cards are the ones that let you show your opponent your deck, because that's part of the joy of EDH is sharing your deck with people.
And you're just giving them a little preview.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about those, as you have categorized them here, turn-free ramp spells, like all of the 4-mana stuff. One thing that immediately stands out to me, and this is just because I am a big solemn enjoyer. You're playing Scampering Surveyor, but not Solemn Simulacrum. How come? Like, what's so important about the Scampering Surveyor?
I have a caves package,
Oh,
and so
tell,
it finds me caves. And yeah, I think I had Solemn Simulacrum in there at some point, but I ended up cutting it. Scampering finds some useful caves. There's like a graveyard hate one. There is one that taps for like extra mana that can go into like a Kessig Wolf Run or another land. And then there are a couple that have a sacrifice to discover attached. So
yes.
those can be really nice to grab and, have on board for if I stall out a little bit later in the game.
The Hidden Nursery and Hidden Volcano. I have
Yeah.
tried playing these cards and I never find myself sacrificing them. So I ended up cutting them from pretty much all decks. But is that something that like actually happens here?
Yes, definitely. They're not good in most decks, but this deck commits so hard to ramping that very frequently you'll just have like 15 lands and you run out of things to play, and then suddenly having these that you can, throw 6 mana into, maybe you hit another ramp spell, you thin out your deck a little bit more, and, the sacrifice is fine anyway. Maybe you hit a like little draw creature, and then suddenly you're off to the races. So there's a lot of good stuff that can come out of sacrificing those, and I do it quite often.
Is there, I can see here this Cosmium Confluence as part of the case package. There's a 5 mana green sorcery that lets you choose free. And you can choose the same thing more than once, which is really interesting. But you can destroy an enchantment. You can put 3+1/+1 counters on a cave and make it elemental. Or, of course, the important thing is you can search out a cave and put it onto the battlefield tap. And
Yeah, I like
so
that card.
yeah, so I always found this one to be very restrictive because you can only search out caves specifically. I wish this actually lets you find basics as well. But
Yeah, I mean, I think the deck has like 4 or 5 caves. So usually I don't run out, and typically with that I will destroy an enchantment and then search for 2 caves. Sometimes it's just searching for 3 caves, but usually it's searching for 2. And in that case, it's pretty solid.
all right. Now, one thing that I also think is very interesting about this deck is, my guy, you're not playing any counter. What's going on there? Like, what is it? Beast Whisperer, Radagast, and Garruk's Pack Leader? Is that the extent of it?
Yeah, there are some more like kind of one-off ones. But yeah, the deck is relatively thin on draw, and that's for 2 reasons. For one, the deck is very high curved, which just lets it keep cards in hand longer. Like, whereas other people are playing out 2/2 drops, 2/3 drops, a 2 and a 3 drop, I'm playing nothing but 6, 5, 7 cost cards that are taking up most of my turn in the early turns. And then, I'll be maybe playing 2 of them per turn in later turns. So I'm just not running out of cards that fast in general, and I also have some mana sinks that can consume mana as well, which include like Kessig Wolf Run, and there's like a 4 mana pirate that can steal opposing creatures by paying mana into it. So that's one reason I have lots of ways to spend mana. The second reason is that the deck is very high velocity. I just churn through my deck pretty fast. Which that happens in kind of 2 ways. One of them is that my lands get thinned out pretty quickly by all of my ramp spells. I think land thinning is sometimes overstated, but in this deck, I will very quickly pull the lands out of my deck, and then suddenly I'm drawing a lot more gas. And then the other way that works is I have my Cascade cards that basically are, in some sense, they're a cantrip, but they're guaranteed to hit a non-land card. So I, jump through my deck a lot faster, and the suite of draw ends up feeling bigger than it would be otherwise because my deck is effectively smaller than a 99 card deck because I have like 10 of these, cards that dig into my deck and find a non-land card.
I think this is maybe a good moment to talk about like what kind of environment do you play this in? Because this strikes me as like a bracket 2, bracket 3 style deck. It's also very much budget friendly. Like from what I can tell, it's like $60. It's
Yeah,
not expensive at all.
I consider this a pretty firmly bracket 3 deck. In principle, the game plan is kind of a bracket 2 game plan, but it is so thoroughly optimized that playing it with precons, you will just stomp them. So bracket 3 is where this deck lives, and I find that it works out okay against some kind of stronger bracket 3 decks. One issue it does have is that it does not have a whole lot of instant speed interaction, but it is actually very dense on removal engines, so you can kind of start to knock down key opposing pieces of whatever, combos they might have, or whatever, powerful engines they might have. You can start to knock those down pretty early, and it does a decent job of suppressing opponents at sorcery speed.
Yeah, you've got the Gruul Rage Beast and Thorn Mammoth in here.
Yes.
Which I mean, once one of those is on the board, it gets really difficult to stick anything that's worthwhile.
Yes, especially Rage Beast, because like Thorn Mammoth, you have some limit on how many things you can kill per turn. Like just naturally, like you can only fight like a couple 3/3s with a Thorn Mammoth before it dies, but Rage Beast, if I start having a big turn in the late game, I can just smush the whole board because every 4/4, 5/5, 6/6 I play will fight a thing.
I also want to give a shout out to Tyrant's Familiar. I love that card. That card is so funny.
It's great.
It's like surprisingly good, right? Like Tyrant's Familiar, in case you all aren't familiar, this is a 7-mana dragon, 5/5 for flying haste, but it's got Lieutenant. So if you control your commander, it gets +2/+2 and gets haste. And when it attacks, wait, no, it already has haste, but it gets +2/+2, and when it attacks, it shoots 7 damage to a creature. Oh, that thing, every time it comes down, it just hurts. It does so much all at once. And it just keeps doing that every turn.
It is a very strong card as long as your commander isn't a removal magnet on its own. If you have your commander that you really like and it's central to your game plan, this card's not going to be that great because your opponents just kill your commander every time and then you stop having the dragon. But in the cases like this deck where I don't really care about my commander past like turn 5, it's great because, my opponents can remove my commander, but that's not really 2-for-1ing me. And I could just play it back out for like, 4 or 6 mana or something if I really want more dragon.
Yeah, I imagine that your commander just doesn't get removed much in the first place, right? This is the kind of card where in the early game it just doesn't look that scary, and then all of a sudden there's a Rage Beast staring you down.
Yes, and it's funny you say that because when I've talked about this deck, one of the top kind of comments I get on YouTube is, why don't people just bolt this on turn 2? And which is, I guess, a fair comment, except that...
Is that a fair comment?
I think it overstates the importance of having the little 2 to 4 mana hop, because I think that's the better way of thinking about this. This commander hops me from 2 to 4 mana. It makes my slow game plan a little bit faster. And if it gets removed, then I play a turn slower. And that's not the end of the world. This is not like a super heavy tempo deck. If I'm playing my 7/7s on turn 5 instead of turn 4, well, I prefer to play them on turn 4, but it is what it is.
I mean, if it comes down to it, like once Radha has ramped out a single one of those 4 mana ramp spells, I mean, what does she even do, right? Next turn you'll have 7 mana anyways, so you can just...
Yeah.
And
it's always nice if she sticks around.
I think this like mentality, this idea of like just bolt the Radha, just bolt the opposing commander as soon as they come down early. I think more often than not, what that results in is actually a huge disadvantage to the person that has cast that removal spell, because it's you're essentially skipping your own turn as well. That early on in the game, you're just kind of sacrificing your own turn to stop an opponent from doing something, and that's just not usually a great game plan. I think in Commander, Commander is one of those, like, it's a game where it's really important, I think, to be selfish. Like, you need to be focused on yourself. You can't worry only about what your opponents are doing because, frankly speaking, they have more cards available than you do. You're just never going to be able to take them all down by yourself.
Yeah, I don't think you would ever want to use single target removal on this. I could see maybe if you have like the Modern Horizons 3 zombie that makes each player sacrifice a non-token creature. Maybe there's another opponent who played a Mana Dork as well. Maybe there's like a little like draw engine bird or something that came out. Maybe you get like a little 2-for-1 off of this. I think maybe that becomes valid. But I think single target removal getting used on Radha is pretty rare. Also,
I mean, Bolt just doesn't get played that much. Although I've been enjoying Lightning Bolt recently. That card is...
Yeah.
This may be, I know, this is a crazy statement, but I think Lightning Bolt might be a good Magic card.
It's kind of okay. Honestly, I hear a lot of people talk trash on it. I still run it in one of my decks. I should probably replace it, but it feels fine there.
I
Kills
think,
small things sometimes. Shoots a player for the last 3 points of damage sometimes. It's okay.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Talking about good magic cards, I noticed one in this list that you're gonna need to tell me like how you arrived at this, how often you get to cast it. You gotta tell me really like what in your soul makes you play this card. And I think you might already know which one I'm talking about. It is a 7 mana 9/5 worm, Panglacial Worm, trample. While you're searching a library, you may play it from your library.
Yes. The answer is I find it really funny. And in theory, it is lovely as a kind of extra mana sink in some sense. So if I'm ramping super, super hard and I just run out of things to play, maybe I have a Beast Whisperer on board, but I'm still running out of cards, I can play a ramp spell and then also play my Panglacial Worm. In practice, I don't do that all that often, admittedly. But it has never felt like enough of a dead weight for me to want to cut it, and I find it very funny. I also had a friend of mine, I commissioned a friend of mine to do an altar of it, so
Oh, do you have that?
I don't have the deck right near me right now,
I
but
don't
I can
mind.
go grab it if you want.
I mean, I would love to see it. If that's not too much. Wait. Before you show the card, like you commissioned this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what was the commission? What did you ask for?
I wanted, so I have these peach colored sleeves, and I wanted a version of it where the worm is popping out of the library itself
Oh,
rather than popping out of like a glacier as it is on the original art.
that is a great idea.
So this is it. Here, I'll show it to you first.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I get to see a different camera. Oh, it's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
great. I love
So
it. It's
this
so
kind of got
derpy.
goofy guy eyes popping out of the library. So
I mean, now you,
that
you
is,
you have to play it.
I have to play it, and it's funny. And I have found that there is a certain quantity of cards that I can afford to have in this deck that can be a little bit dead weight. I think there's some other kind of amplifier cards like Sunbird's Invocation that would fall kind of into a similar category where they just don't feel like they would do something immediately, and in other decks I might be hesitant to play them. But here, I think the game plan is just so streamlined, and it just feels like space is ample because I'm cutting out all of the low cost junk that would feel like it was junking up my draws most games.
That's great. Like this, so
It's
Sunburst
budget
Invocation is another one. Is there another one you can think of?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm just curious.
Yeah,
Like what
Sunbird's
you
Invocation is just
consider.
kind of a pure payoff. Like, I play it, and then if I have more magic to play after that, I get to play more magic per magic. What else? I mean, I think a couple mana sinks are kind of similar in the sense that if I draw them early, they don't do a whole lot. So, like, Captivating Crew is one that steals opposing creatures.
Yeah, for 4 mana, it's basically just snatch something, attack with it, give it back.
Yeah, I have Wondrous Crucible as a 7 mana like card that recycles cards from my graveyard. It doesn't necessarily do a whole lot immediately, but it's nice as kind of a long-term engine type thing.
I love that card
What
though. I
else?
think Wondrous Crucible is just a lot of fun to play. And honestly, the fact that it gives everything Void 2 really shouldn't be underestimated.
Yeah, no, it's decent. This deck doesn't need the protection a whole lot, but it's always nice.
Yeah, it's
Honestly, I
just
think
nice.
the ward 2 on the Wondrous Crucible is more important than the ward 2 on any other card.
Protects
But
itself.
yeah, I have a handful of cards like that are maybe a little bit less immediately useful, but they're just really nice to have
Yeah.
in some situations, and it's fun to be able to kind of include cards that aren't necessarily purely immediately useful.
I think that would be like what would often be described as like pet cards, right?
In some sense, yeah, and certainly I think Panglacial Worm is a pet card of this deck. It's not a card that I would play in any deck aside from this one, just because I think this is the closest that card will ever get in my decks to being any good. But for that reason, I do run it here.
So I have a question about your, as you have it tagged on your architect page here, which I think is just a wonderful tag for it as your Wii package, the Cascade package, right? So I think
Yes.
Cascade is one of those things where, there are some cards that are just kind of like a lot more effective than others. Like Sweet Gum Recluse is one of those Cascade cards that personally, when I've played with it, it's just like, okay, it's part of the package, but just kind of like it defaults into it because there's Cascade written on the card, right? And
Sweetcomb Recluse is so good.
yeah, you like it? Okay, and all right.
Oh my god, it has reach, it has flash. I love Sweetcomb Recluse. Yeah, but if you cascade into some creatures, then they get buffed up as well. I've had like late game turns where it puts counters on like 5 creatures.
Oh, okay. All right, so I was mostly curious, right? Like out of your Cascade cards, tell me like your top 2. What do you think are the 2 best Cascade cards that you play here that have just been...
Honestly, Sweetgum Recluse is almost certainly going to make that list.
Really? Okay. Sorry,
Yes!
I didn't mean to attack the spider.
The flash on it is so good. The flash is what makes it really good.
I wonder if that's maybe because you said you don't really play any instant speed interaction, right? Like, is it just because of that? It's like one of your few instant speed things in the deck?
Yes. Yeah, I have a handful of instant speed plays. That's one of them. What other things do I find useful? I don't actually. That might not be one of my top 2. I think a lot of them are going to be from like UB sets. Bigger on the inside is one that gives a artifact or land tap. Target player adds 2 mana of any one color. The next spell they cast this turn has Cascade. That's one that is very kind of powerful in this deck. And I think in general, just because it gives you a Cascade every turn effectively.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of ramp, right?
It is. And I actually ran into a problem with that one time that caused me to slip a little note into one of my cards. So I'll show this to you first.
Oh my god.
It is a little note that says, I don't know how readable that is. But
yeah, no, I can read it.
It is a little note that says, cannot target a land enchanted with bigger on the inside. So the creature itself is a 4 mana 1/1. Whenever a land comes, landfall, untapped Stoneseeder, Hierophant, tap, untap target land. And I did that after one game. I had that and bigger on the inside out and realized that I had a non-deterministic storm combo that would allow me to likely play my entire library. So
right. Can you take us through the combo?
Sure. So if you tap a land with bigger on the inside, you get a Cascade on your next spell. If you cast a 6-drop, say, that's likely going to cascade into like a 4-mana ramp spell. It's pretty likely that will happen. A 4-mana ramp spell will untap Stoneseeder Hierophant twice. And then with that, you're going to untap your land that bigger on the inside is on. And then you'll be able to add more mana, and you'll get like these stacking cascades. Like you'll get like 3 stacks of Cascade on your next spell. So your next spell will have like 3 cascades. You'll hit more lands a lot of the time. You'll hit like more of these 4-mana ramp spells. And so theoretically, I think there's a good chance you go through your whole library, or you go through half your library, or some massive amount of your library.
Like I saw that you could, like with the Stoneseeder Hierophant, right? Like the important thing there is like when 2 lands enter, you get 2 triggers of the untap, so you can untap,
yes,
like tap it to untap the land, and then untap it again, and then do that kind of thing.
Yes.
But I hadn't even considered that would stack Cascade. That's actually crazy.
Yes. Yes.
That makes me almost want to build a deck that like actually tries to do that. It seems like a really powerful strategy.
It's a really funny combo. But I've tried to cut out most of the things in this deck that are just like very suddenly I win, just because that's not what the deck is trying to do. And I think if the deck had a lot of that, it would be kind of a lot more frustrating to play against. So that's one that I had to, I guess, errata a little bit and specify that I cannot do that.
I see what you like. Like, I get what you're saying completely, and I think I'm noticing like a bit of a pattern here as well. Like, for example, you're not really playing anything that gives haste. Like, okay, Keswick Wolf
Yeah.
Run, right? But Keswick Wolf Run is only one creature, but you don't have
It
anything.
also that also doesn't give haste. That gives trample.
Oh,
Not
sorry, I
haste.
confused it then. My bad.
I don't believe there's anything that gives haste in this deck.
Yeah, and this is the
There are a
kind of
couple
deck.
creatures that have haste on themselves, but nothing that gives haste to other things.
Yeah, but this is the kind of deck, right? Where like if let's say you had an anger in the graveyard, all of a sudden the game is just over like that, right? Then the pressure
Yeah.
you're putting out is tremendous.
Right.
And that's something that
Yeah,
you're
and
deliberately trying to avoid.
yes. And I actually talked about this in my stop shortcutting the fun part of your deck video, in that the fun part of this deck for me is kind of cultivating an arch enemy vibe in the game and trying to, give my opponents a chance to fight back against me and a chance to claw their way back into the game, while I'm kind of lumbering ahead with my big mid-rangey game plan and my, stupid amounts of mana. And I think if I ended the game too quickly, it would kind of not allow for that.
Yeah.
Because I like giving my opponents the chance to claw their way back in. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. But I like it when there's kind of that archenemy dynamic where opponents have a chance and either they win or they lose. And I find that, more explosive win cons just kind of take that away.
You're giving your opponents a chance to respond. Like even at sorcery speed, right? Like you're putting the threats on the board and then you're saying, all right, you got to deal with this now.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually like I had a kind of similar problem recently. Like we have this mono red storm deck that's led by Neheb Dreadhorde champion. And I had Stormscale Scion in there. And I thought it was fine because Stormscale Scion, what I would usually do is I would put like 10 Stormscale Scions on the board and then pass. I've never managed to attack with them. Never happened a single time. I've done it like 10 times and they never survived the turn. So I always thought it was fine. But then the Fire Crystal came out. And I wanted to put the Fire Crystal in the deck, but the Fire Crystal gives my creatures haste. So now I had to pick between the Fire Crystal or Stormscale Scion. I can't have both in the same deck. Or like at the same time. Because then the Scions do not give the opportunity to respond anymore. Then they just kill.
Yeah. And I think it was easier for me to slip the little piece of paper into the card, just because I could just choose not to untap a land enchanted with bigger on the inside. Now, I think if I did that a lot, my opponents would start to kind of look at me and go, why are you sandbagging? So for that reason, I slipped the paper in to go, no, this is a policy. This is not me trying to,
No, the card just can't
be
do
a
it.
sandbagging dingus.
Like this just says it on there. It says it right on the card. You can't.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
Impossible. Exactly.
So that's the one Cascade card. All right, we got a second one. Tell me a second one.
Oh, sure. The second one is probably just going to be a purely kind of good one, because that's like a fun kind of explosive one. The other one I'm going to talk about is one that is just like really very good every time I play it, and that is Volcanic Torrent. It is a 5-mana Cascade card that says deals X damage to each creature and planeswalker your opponent's control, where X is the number of spells you've cast this turn. So early game, it'll typically be 2 damage, but later it can be like 4, 5, 6 in some cases, much larger chunks of damage, which is important. And sometimes I'll be putting effort into getting that number as high as possible, because this deck doesn't really run a whole lot of hard removal. So if there's like an 8/8 creature, I might have to put a bit of effort into killing it.
Yeah, I've played with that card a bunch as well. And honestly, 2 damage, even at turn 5, like even just playing turn 5 on curve, 2 damage actually clears a lot of boards. Like that.
It does.
Yeah.
And if you slow down opponents and then get my 4-mana Cascade, get 2 more lands usually, that's a pretty solid turn 5.
Yeah. And it's also still at 5 mana cost in the deck, right? And like that's actually still on the lower end for this particular list. So with like your 6 mana Cascade spells, you can hit this as well, and then all of a sudden it's coming in for free extra.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, and that's pretty common. Is I'll play like my Discover Dinosaur, I'll Discover into this, and then I'll Cascade into another 4-mana card, and then suddenly it's 3 damage, and I'll just randomly go, "Oops, I dealt 3 damage to all your stuff. Sorry."
All right, then, let me dive into one last card here, and then if you still have any that you would like to point out, but I am very curious about Soulfire Eruption. This is a 9-mana sorcery that says choose any number of target creatures, planeswalkers, and or players. For each of them, exile the top card of your library, then Soulfire Eruption deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to that permanent or player. You may play the exiled cards until the end of your next turn. This is a really cool card. I think it's absolutely fascinating. 9 mana is, of course, a ton, and a lot of decks wouldn't play this just because of that. So how does this usually play out for you? Like, this seems like it seems a little bit exhausting, if I'm completely honest, but it seems like it would be like a flashy finisher, or how does this play out?
Yeah, so typically it's not like a finisher. Like, you generally won't be able to go lethal with it, but it'll set you up. It's mostly a draw spell in some sense, but it's also just like, it's kind of a draw spell that hits, that deals kind of random amounts of damage to things as well. So this is another card that I would put in that kind of a little bit dead weight category, but it truly is quite good when I resolve it. And I've gotten pretty good at resolving it quickly. So typically I will pick up my deck and point to creatures on the board, flip a card, go 4 damage, 0 damage, 4 damage, 6 damage, 4 damage, 6 damage, 0 damage, 0 damage, and I'll just try and go through it as quickly as possible. In the past, I've sometimes flipped cards onto my opposing things, which is a little bit more dramatic, but I've found it's a little bit more dramatic, and it also lets keeping track of it be easier, but I found that it's a little bit exhausting to kind of...
Players? Just like...
Yeah, kind of. I'm like... But I found that it's a little annoying to have to like back up all the cards I drew afterwards. I say cards I drew. They're exiled. I can play them until the end of my next turn. So a lot of times I'll have a massive following turn after this because I've got all my mana and then I've got, all of these cards I can play. So this one's definitely a lot of fun. It's mostly a flashy card here, but it is genuinely pretty good.
So are there any other cards that you like that are standouts to you that maybe I haven't brought up yet or that we haven't talked about yet? Also, I notice you're playing Map the Frontier and you're not playing the Bounce Land Desert. And
I could be playing that. I haven't really felt like adding a Deserts package.
No package. Just the one.
I could run just the one,
yeah.
or just like the Graveyard Hate Desert as well. I could do that. That would be fine, but have not opted to do that a whole lot. I guess the only other card I will highlight is I run Screamer Killer, which is a card from the Warhammer 40k set. It is a 5-mana 5/5 trample that whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 5 or greater, it deals 5 damage to any target. And I like to call it the Terror of the Peaks we have at home, because it is kind of a Terror of the Peaks, just a lot worse. but Terror of the Peaks is really good, so a lot worse Terror of the Peaks is still pretty good.
Yeah, also it's just like, I think, a more interesting choice, right? Like if I see somebody cast Terror of the Peaks, I'm like, okay, well, it's Terror of the Peaks. But like if you tell me Screamer Killer, I'm like, oh, wait, no, hold on. You're gonna need to read that one.
Yeah, although my opponents generally cease to be excited about it pretty quickly, and it suddenly becomes a must-kill on board when it's, dealing 5 damage to their creatures multiple times a turn.
Yeah, I think this is something you've done really well with this deck. Like, you've built it in a way that it's capable of, like, not only building a dangerous board state, but building a board state that actually oppresses your opponent's board states while it's at it.
Yes.
This the kind of like repeatable removal from cards like Screamer Killer. And I think that's something that's really important. Like oftentimes I see players that try to build these kind of big ramp decks or big creature decks. And what they do is they just put creatures into play that, like, I guess they are big or they have trample and they hit kind of hard. But ultimately there's so many creatures that are big that shouldn't really be your priority. Your priority should be trying to get some other utility out of them.
Yeah. Well, I think a card that I see a lot, and I'm not going to say it's a bad card, but it's always a card I turn my nose out a little bit, is it's a 7-mana card. When it enters, you create plants equal to the number of lands you control, and then landfall, you put a full swing. Which one?
Avenger of Zendikar?
Yes. Yeah. That one is one I see a lot, and it's just never really appealed to me over alternatives. I think you have some lower mana versions of that, like Rampaging Baloths. That's a 6-mana card. I think that's a lot more tempting to me. But at 7 mana, I think you want to be doing something other than that in a lot of decks. I'm
Yeah.
sure some decks appreciate it. If you're running like a big hardcore lands deck, I'm sure that leads to wins in some cases. But doesn't really appeal to me over something like a Thorn Mammoth or a other removal engine. Which there are a lot of removal engines at 7 mana in green and also in red.
Well then, thank you very much for coming on. I hope you had a good time. I very much enjoyed this. This was fascinating. I hope everybody watching also had a good time. Again, please let me know if this worked, if this was something that you would like to see again. And Snail, Alex, I'll let you have the last words. Where can people find you and what can they expect?
Sure. I am on YouTube mainly. I have my main channel. I have a second channel, but my main channel is Salubrious Snail. You can expect deck building advice. You can expect philosophy of EDH, and there is a deck tech for this particular deck about a year ago. I think it's called like How to Be a Greedy Bastard in EDH and Not Get Punished for It.
Oh, you do
which
such
is the
good
tagline
titles.
of this deck.
You do such good titles. Honestly, that's something that I haven't quite figured out yet. But you and Trinket Mage, I think you two have just such a good title game. I'm always so impressed.
Some titles are better than others. That one was pretty good. But yeah, you can check that out if you want to know more about this deck. I love talking about this deck, so you might hear me talking about it on other videos as well. But that's what you will find.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, and I'll see you sometime
Thanks
soon.
for having me.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I would definitely appreciate that. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. There's a link down in the description where you can find all kinds of bonus content and, of course, also good services like deck reviews. Setting that aside, let me know who you would like to see on the show, maybe. I am not confident this is something we're going to do more of, but I wanted to give it a try. I enjoyed it. We're currently in the editing stages. I haven't seen the full video yet, so I don't really know how it's gonna turn out. But I guess I'll just leave it up to you to decide. But you know, something else that I'm also really interested in, and this is completely besides the point, but I'm already here. And I've already clicked record, so I'm going to talk about it for just one moment. But I'm celebrating my birthday tomorrow. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. But I invited a total of 7 people, so we're 8 people, 2 commander pods. And I proposed that we try something I've wanted to try for a long time. So I gave everybody the task to build some 80-card commander decks. I've always wanted to try out 80-card commander with 30 life pool. I think it sounds really interesting, and it's just something that I wanted to try. And this is where I'm not sure if this is a good or a bad thing. Nobody fucking questioned it that is what I want to do for my birthday. Nobody was like, really? That seems unusual. No, everybody's like, yeah, no, it seems about right. That seems like what you would want to do. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. That's just how it is. So maybe I'll report about this at some point in the future. Again, this is just a little experiment for my own interests. And I'm really curious. Building the decks was actually quite a lot of fun because you don't have as many filler slots, which feels really nice. Like everything feels very tight and very compact in how much you can fit from your theme or off your theme. Admittedly, for me personally, since I tend to build a little bit weirder in my themes, that tends to be kind of difficult, right? I don't always have enough cards to fill an entire commander deck, but in 80 cards, I was able to do that. Either way, anyways, setting that aside, I'll see you guys. Goodbye.